Lynn Shure, who has been out, in fact, in California at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory to monitor Voyager 2 for us, has been her challenge this week, has also, while we've been on the air, working the telephones to the various mission controls. Lynn, simple question again, anything?
Well, I've been talking to a number of people, Peter, and first of all, nobody knows anything yet. I just spoke to another one of the former astronauts from the shuttle program who, without knowing anything, thinks that it might have been a rupture of some kind that caused the tank to ignite. In other words, maybe one of the fuel lines leading into the engines of the tank, engines of the shuttle, excuse me. It seems clear that both solid rocket boosters were thrown free or were pushed aside and went to their own destination, still, as you can see or as you will see in just a few seconds, almost intact or intact. They have to be intact. Almost intact wouldn't mean anything. Just take a look at that. What we're looking at is obviously a still frame, and that's the flame starting. And if there were a rupture on the tank, you're looking at the shuttle on the right. Let me do it with the model, if I may. Here's the that's the view that you were looking at. I think was actually probably that way. Is that right? And if the shuttle is on its back, and the tank is here, and the boosters are on the side, as you've showed us so many times, the boosters seem to have gotten away. Let's take a look at that tape, and we'll look at it again. The boosters seem to get away okay, which may mean that the rupture was in a fuel line in the tank. Now, look at that flame right there. If we could stop that tape, if that's possible. The flame is at the base, the bottom of the external tank. That's where the fuel would go into the shuttle's main engines. And that appears to be the first flame. Is it in fact the first flame? Obviously, I don't know. Okay, let's roll a little bit more, and what you'll see will happen as it keeps going. The flame then, obviously, that very thin-skinned external tank with all that liquid hydrogen and oxygen is so volatile, so flammable, is just going to go. Keep going. And as the flame appears to be spreading, now the whole tank will go, but the boosters get thrown free. And then, as Peter, you've pointed out a number of times, they just go sent off in the wrong direction, but they are not exploding in any way. What we're talking about, obviously, that orange blob in the middle, the long sort of pencil-looking, the long fat pencil, the crayon, is the external tank. And if that ruptures, then the boosters, those two white crayons on the side, would simply be sent on their way the wrong way, and they would go until they fizzle out, and then they go down into the ocean, and they are supposed to be recovered for another mission.
Well, Lynn, here's a note for you. We've had a report from Cape Canaveral that they found bits of the booster rockets. Now, is that normal? I thought they could be recovered intact.
You're quite right. It is not normal. They should be recovered intact because they do get reused. But there you see on the right what appears to be a perfectly normal rocket burn. Again, going the wrong direction. It's supposed to be attached to the shuttle and heading up or heading out. Instead, it appears to be heading down. But there does not appear to be any kind of I repeat, appear to be anything unusual about that. If there were an explosion within the tank, as we're speculating, it is possible that it could have affected a piece of one of the boosters, which may account for why there are pieces of the boosters. But I don't want to take this too far because it's dangerous without really knowing what happened.
Well,
but Peter, you're entirely right that if they find pieces of a booster, obviously the booster did not make it intact.
Well, I would like you to ask one question, and I couldn't agree with you more that getting too deep. We've only got about 15 minutes before NASA promises they're going to come and tell us something. But one of the European scientists, Mike Lee, told us earlier this morning, it speculated that the bad weather at the Cape, particularly the cold, that Arctic wind that pushed down right into the deep south in the last couple of days, may have had some effect on the main tank. Is that a consideration at least?
Sure, it has to be. Everything has to be a consideration because this has never happened before. So everything has to be taken into account.
Well, how about normal circumstances?
I saw the same.